Departure authorized.
Distorsión. Listo para activar. 4, 3, 2, 1. Activando. Motor de distorsión. Escaneo de sistema completado. Cargando motor de distorsión. Listo para activar. 4, 3, 2, 1. Activando. Cargando motor de distorsión. Listo para activar. 4, 3, 2, 1. Activando.
Aegis returns. The anti-Xeno agency Aegis has been officially reformed by the Alliance, Empire, and Federation. Aegis was initially founded in 3303 to centralize research into the Thargoids, as well as coordinate defense and rescue operations. It was disbanded in 3308 following accusations of incompetence in the wake of the Alexandria disaster and the subsequent findings of the Bauman Report. The recent escalation of the Thargoid War and calls for renewed collaboration between the superpowers have led to a reversal of that decision. Professor Albert Tesro will serve as the head of the revived organization. She provided details at a press conference. Aegis remains humanity's best hope of ending this calamitous war with the Thargoids. Its priority is to better understand the alien species through scientific research and to utilize those findings to improve our defensive and weapon
Solicitud de aterrizaje aceptada.
capabilities. Each superpower has appointed an individual to oversee its contributions. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Corcoran for the Alliance, Princess Aisling Duval for the Empire, and Congressman Tom Gillespie for the Federation. We have also invited many independent specialists to partner with
Tren de aterrizaje desplegado.
Aegis, including Professor Ishmael Palin, Ramtar, and a previous key member of Aegis, Aidan Tanner. Criticism from the Bauman Report has been taken on board. Our new organizational structure follows the streamlined approach used by the affiliated counterterrorism unit to great success. To improve
Aterrizaje exitoso. Motores desactivados.
coordination, a limited application of Omega Grid networking will facilitate rapid and secure communications between key members. Aegis's first research project is already underway. The engineer Petra Olmanova has approached us with preliminary designs for a method of allowing ships to survive longer within the Maelstrom's corrosive clouds. We have assigned several metallurgy and chemistry experts to develop this further. Federation pledges resources to Aegis. President Zachary Hudson and Shadow President Felicia Winters have united behind federal backing for the reformation of Aegis. Congress held an emergency debate after the Alliance and Empire agreed to support an official tri-superpower initiative against the Thargoids. A majority of votes from Republican, Liberal and Independent representatives approved the provision of ships, personnel and materials from the Federation. President Hudson delivered a short address to mark the occasion. The intensified Thargoid attacks against the core systems demand a proportionate response. We recognize that Salvation was directly responsible for many of the tragic events that Aegis was blamed for. The Federation has an opportunity to correct that misjudgment and do our part to defeat a common adversary. Congressman Tom Gillespie has volunteered to coordinate the Federation's involvement with any unified anti-Xeno activities. Professor Seamus Madigan at Olympus Village University will continue to lead on xenological research. The Federal Navy has assigned Rear Admiral Daniel Parry to act as its military liaison, a reduced version of the role formerly occupied by Admiral Aidan Tanner. Professor Albert Tesreau has publicly thanked the leaders of the Alliance, Empire and Federation for their renewed faith in the ideals that Aegis represents. Kumo crew rebuffed after anti-Xeno campaign. Pilots Federation alert. A successful initiative to hold
4, 3, 2, 1. Activado.
California Nebula against Thargoid invasion has succeeded, for now at least. Systems recently invaded by Thargoid fleets were protected by a militia organized by the Kumo Council, the criminal syndicate's ruling authority in the Enclave. But an attempt to assume control of the region's ports has been surprisingly repelled by opponents of Delane. The Pegasus Sentinel reported on the situation. There can be no doubt that Archon Delane takes the security of the California Nebula seriously. Many lives were saved thanks to his decisive actions. A Kumo crew anti-Xeno militia is considered for future Thargoid attacks. Local residents remain wary of Delane's reputation, however. Security forces deployed to local ports have been driven out, with communities apparently unconvinced by claims of emergency security measures. Turner Research Group has re-established control in locations the Kumo Council had attempted to seize. A related article was also published by the Alliance Tribune. The Assembly received an urgent request for support from the Turner Research Group. They claim that the Kumo Cruise campaign was an excuse to encroach upon the Alliance's operations in the California Nebula. Councilors have raised a motion to begin a formal inquiry into the situation. The Meatlon megaship, currently in California Sector HRWD-128, is reimbursing Thargoid combat bonds for all pilots who contributed to the initiatives. Activists blame leaders for Thargoid war. Anti-authoritarian protests have surged in the Alliance, Empire and Federation, with governments accused of responsibility for Thargoid hostility. Vox Galactica's political correspondent Conrad Sterling published a special report. The Xenopeace movement, which originally advocated diplomatic relations with the Thargoids, lost a lot of momentum following the arrival of the Maelstroms. But some former members are blaming Allied, federal and imperial leaders for allowing the war to escalate, with profits from corporate arms deals seen as the motive. Timothy Culver, once a spokesperson for the Thargoid Advocacy Project, believes that conflict was always the superpower's policy. They knew the Proteus wave would trigger an aggressive reaction from the Thargoids, he claims, without providing evidence, it should be noted. Shareholders in the military/industrial complex always make a fortune during wartime. The blood of billions is on their money-grabbing hands. An uncoordinated wave of activism across the core systems has included civil lawsuits, protest marches and occasional clashes with security personnel. There have even been attempted break-ins at administrative complexes and politicians' homes, where some activists believe proof of conspiracy can be found. Xenopeace figureheads, such as ICE caster Joy Senna, have distanced themselves from these incidents and the general TAP movement in recent weeks. Congressman Dalton Chase has made no further statements on the Kingfisher tragedy, his spokesperson citing a focus on other projects. Only Hamer Borichev of the Sovereign continues to broach the subject, claiming recently, institutional corruption requires radical solutions. Allied Interpol and the Imperial Internal Security Service claim that the public disorder is under control, while the Proactive Detection Bureau has begun identifying and precautioning federal citizens who express anti-authority sympathies. But as the death toll from the Thargoid War continues to rise, the demands for responsibility seem unlikely to fade. Marn, Alliance will support Aegis. The Alliance Assembly has voted to make a contribution to Aegis if the agency is reformed by the three superpowers. Prime Minister Edmund Marn made an official announcement. Emperor Arisa Lavany Duval's change of heart regarding anti-Xeno collaboration has triggered swift action from Alliance systems. The Assembly has reappraised a bill proposed last November by Deputy Prime Minister Angela Corcoran, seeking to approve Aegis's reformation. A majority vote has now passed that bill. The Alliance will therefore commit ships, resources and personnel to a collaborative anti-Xeno agency. We will also share Thargoid-related intelligence and scientific data to a central database shared with the Empire and Federation. The Strategic Defense Pact with Sirius Corporation remains in effect, and the company continues to work with us on protecting Allied systems. It has been suggested that Li Yongrui privately advised the Prime Minister against holding the vote, with the view that Sirius Corporation could fill the role of humanity's primary anti-Xeno organization. However, political analysts noted that Marn has a long-standing dedication to multilateral cooperation against the Thargoids. Deputy Prime Minister Corcoran will act as the Alliance's primary contact with any new incarnation of Aegis. Commodore Emil Varga has volunteered to serve as military liaison, with Dr. Maximo Fonseca of Gateway Laboratories taking the lead on xenological research. Pirates lead counterattack against Thargoids. Pilots Federation alert. The Kumo crew is marshalling the defense of the California Nebula by offering rewards for eliminating Thargoid vessels. The Kumo Council, the Syndicate's ruling body, assumed control of several systems that were recently invaded by Thargoid fleets. Independent pilots have been asked to take part in anti-Xeno initiatives within the region, which are being coordinated from the Meatlon megaship. Harrison Gladstone of the Turner Research Group, which represents the Alliance in the California Nebula, made a formal protest. We are not happy about defense initiatives being funded by a ruthless criminal gang. These pirates are using the Thargoid attacks to expand their illegal activity, thus jeopardizing our faction's scientific and commercial interests. Several of our ports in the area are now under Kumo crew emergency protections, as they've termed it. This is an illegal occupation of Allied territory. In response, Archon Delane claimed, taking charge of local security forces is necessary to form an effective anti-Xeno militia. If the Alliance cares so much about this region, where are their warships? We're doing Marn's job for him. The colonists here will soon understand our decision is the correct one. The Kumo Council has agreed to reimburse all Thargoid combat bonds handed in at the Meatlon in California Sector HR WD-128. Admiral Tanner released a personal statement, which was published by the Federal Times. I must begin by expressing my gratitude to President Hudson, and thank all those who supported my actions in the T-Tauri system. History has proven that Salvation was willing to sacrifice millions of lives in his personal vendetta against the Thargoids, and we are suffering the after-effects of that obsession today. The Federal Navy was once my home, but my disillusionment has grown over recent years. Politics and commercial influences hold this great institution back from safeguarding the Federation to its fullest capability. Now that the Thargoid threat has reached such a colossal degree, I find such restrictions frustrating to a point that I would likely be a nuisance to my fellow admirals. I have too much respect for every person.
Mensaje de misión crítica entrante.
To offer anything less than my best, that best is now prohibited by bureaucracy. Therefore, I am stepping down for the benefit of all. As for the presidential pardon's terms, I will continue developing anti-Xeno strategy.
LAC Oscar Whiskey Romeo. Please approach the station at a safe speed and be mindful of other pilots in the area. Permission authorized. Cleared for landing on docking bay 07. You are clear for automated approach, Commander.
Directly with Fleet Admiral Tayo Makori to contribute to the Navy's war efforts, while also collaborating.
Landing complete. Docking restraints engaged. Enjoy your visit, Commander.
With other organizations down the line. I remain dedicated to saving lives and bringing this war to an end as soon as possible. To any Thargoids who may be listening, you haven't seen the last of me yet. Xeno scanner upgrade. Pilots Federation alert. An improved Xeno scanner has been released to assist combat vessels engaged in
Mensaje entrante.
Xeno operations. Following increased calls from AX pilots that the existing Xeno scanner's limited range was a hindrance, Professor Palin's team at ARC Laboratory delivered a redesign to manufacturers that extends the scanner's upper range to 2 kilometers. Industrial complexes have worked overtime to distribute the latest model of Xeno scanner. It is now available from military, high-tech and industrial planetary bases, as well as rescue megaships. Experimental Weapons Stabilizer becomes available. Pilots Federation alert. The Class 3 Experimental Weapons Stabilizer is now available following Azimuth Biotech's delivery initiative in LHS-1163. The corporation's PR division confirmed the release of its new product in a press release. This variant of Azimuth's Experimental Weapons Stabilizer is now widely available for purchase. By redirecting and absorbing internal stresses, it allows a ship to carry a total of 5 AX weapons rather than the previous limit of 4. The Class 5 variant of the stabilizer, which permits 2 additional AX weapons, is scheduled to reach the market next week. Our manufacturing partners were able to begin this rapid production cycle thanks to receiving great quantities of meta-alloys, insulating membranes, HN shock mounts and beryllium. Pilots who delivered these materials can now collect their rewards from the glorious Prospect megaship in the LHS 1163 system. Azimuth Biotech remains fully committed to supporting anti-Xeno initiatives. Our team will continue playing a significant role in combating Thargoid aggression and protecting innocent lives. Retail outlets have reported an increase in purchases for both AX missile racks and multi-cannons, including the enhanced designs recently produced by the engineers Liz Ryder and Zachariah Nemo. The Class 5 variant of the Experimental Weapons Stabilizer is expected to further boost sales of AX weaponry when released on Thursday, 2nd February. The pro-Aegis stance of the Princess. Princess Aisling Duval's call for the Empire to commit to a resumed Aegis project, alongside the Alliance and Federation, has received a harsh response. Admiral Denton Patrias was approached for comment by the Eye on Akanan newsfeed. We all have our part.
Tren de aterrizaje replegado.
But questioning military policy is hardly within a princess's remit. I would humbly suggest that Her Highness focuses on those areas where she excels. Charity work, hosting parties, advocating the well-being of the citizens, and so forth. A similar viewpoint was expressed by Senator Zemina Torval, who simply remarked, "Perhaps I am old-fashioned,
Carga del motor de distorsión detectada.
but there was a time when attempting to challenge the Emperor's decree was viewed as an insult to the throne." Hadrian Augustus Duval's response was less confrontational but clear. "I firmly believe that non-collaboration is the best direction for the Empire, and respectfully ask Ashling not to
Escáner detectado.
undermine this policy through the press." However, Senator Caspian Leopold offered an alternative take. Princess Ashling has a much better understanding of political realities than many give her credit for. After personally consulting with scientific, military and political specialists, she has
Cargando motor de distorsión.
concluded that reforming Aegis is the logical
4, 3, 2, 1. Activando.
move. Far from challenging Emperor Arissa's policy, this is a heartfelt attempt to support her reign by increasing the Empire's chances of victory against the Thargoids. Thargoid War Update, January 3309. Vox Galactica reporter Jade Sanderlin has published a summary of the current situation in the conflict against the Thargoids. Many of us who witnessed those terrifying events in HIP 22460 felt that it was both an ending and a beginning, that history had turned a page. 5 months later, the Second Thargoid War has escalated to a point which may yet close the book altogether. The arrival of the 8 Maelstroms resulted in 4 populated systems being completely overwhelmed by the Thargoids. Dozens of neighboring regions were also attacked by their fleets, leaving starports and settlements ablaze. Billions were killed and billions more fled from their homes as panicked refugees, creating the greatest humanitarian crisis of all time. Despite the lack of coordination previously provided by Aegis and Salvation, anti-Xeno efforts have been Herculean. Allied, Federal and Imperial warships rapidly responded to form a vanguard against the invaders, and thousands of independent pilots have valiantly fought the Thargoid swarms across multiple battlefields. Military experts believe that neutralizing the Maelstroms will stem the endless waves of Thargoid vessels. Unfortunately, their caustic clouds and repulsing energy waves prevent our ships from exploring whatever resides within. They also generate the same disruptive field found in HIP 22460, which prevents any Guardian-based weapons from functioning within the system. But there is hope. A small but steady flow of unclassified relics, those strange artifacts recovered from Thargoid surface sites after the Proteus wave fired, have made their way to Professor Ishmael Palin and Ramt.
At last. Please tell me you have some spare fuel. I miscalculated the length of my journey, and now I'm dry.
A leading theory is that they share esoteric properties with several of the Thargoids' recent technological advances and may hold the key to developing countermeasures. Many other scientists are focusing on xenological research, striving to locate a weakness or develop an advantage. Until such a breakthrough occurs, we are reliant upon our spacefaring warriors to contain the most destructive adversary the human race has ever faced. This is Jade Sanderlin for Vox Galactica. Stay safe out there. Experimental Weapons Stabilizer Initiative begins. Pilots Federation alert. Azimuth Biotech has requested deliveries to LHS 1163 to manufacture a module that increases AX weapons capacity. A press release from the corporation's PR division stated, Azimuth's dedication to defeating the Thargoids, which stretches back more than a century, has reached a new milestone with the development of our experimental weapons stabilizer. This proprietary invention redistributes the physical stresses that AX weapons place upon a ship's infrastructure. The Class 3 and Class 5 variants allow ships to be outfitted with 1 or 2 additional AX weapons respectively. Supplies of meta-alloys, insulating membranes, HN shock mounts and beryllium are required to begin mass production of our successful prototypes. All shipments should be delivered to the glorious Prospect megaship in the LHS 1163
Programando dron extractor.
system. Sufficient resources will allow the Class 3 variant of the experimental weapons stabilizer to become available
Transfiriendo combustible.
immediately, with the Class 5 variant reaching the market a short time later. The opportunity to increase hardpoint capacity for anti-Xeno combat ships has been broadly
Carga del motor de distorsión detectada.
welcomed. But critics have noted that Azimuth Biotech stands to commercially benefit from this contribution to the conflict, which many believe was triggered by its Proteus wave operation in the HIP 22460 system. A spokesperson for Operation Witch Hunt, an independent community established to oppose Azimuth Biotech, offered this statement. The proposed modules will benefit humanity in the fight against the ongoing Thargoid threat, and we support anybody who takes advantage of them. But this does not absolve Azimuth Biotech of the terrible acts that they committed under the leading
Imposible ejecutar. Cargando motor de distorsión.
of Caleb Wycherley. The company still must be held accountable for the many atrocities it has committed, including the inhumane experiments of Project Seraph and the vile murder of thousands on board the Alexandria.
Listo para activar. 4, 3, 2, 1. Activando.
Aegis returns. The anti-Xeno agency Aegis has been officially reformed by the Alliance, Empire, and Federation. Aegis was initially founded in 3303 to centralize research into the Thargoids, as well as coordinate defense and rescue operations. It was disbanded in 3308 following accusations of incompetence in the wake of the Alexandria disaster and the subsequent findings of the Bauman Report. The recent escalation of the Thargoid War and calls for renewed collaboration between the superpowers have led to a reversal of that decision. Professor Alba Tesro will serve as the head of the revived organization. She provided details at a press conference. Aegis remains humanity's best hope of ending this calamitous war with the Thargoids. Its priority is to better understand the alien species through scientific research and to utilize those findings to improve our defensive and weapon capabilities. Each superpower has appointed an individual to oversee its contributions. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Corcoran for the Alliance, Princess Aisling Duval for the Empire, and Congressman Tom Gillespie for the Federation. We have also invited many independent specialists to partner with Aegis, including Professor Ishmael Palin, Ramtar, and a previous key member of Aegis, Aidan Tanner. Criticism from the Bauman Report has been taken on board. Our new organizational structure follows the streamlined approach used by the affiliated counterterrorism unit to great success. To improve coordination, integration of Omega Grid networking will facilitate rapid and secure communications between key members. Aegis's first research project is
Taisi, Oscar Whiskey Romeo. It's good to see you, Commander. Please enjoy your stay at this facility.
already underway. The engineer Petra Olmanova has approached us with preliminary designs for a method of allowing ships to survive longer within the Maelstrom's corrosive clouds. We have assigned several metallurgy and chemistry experts to develop this further.
Access authorized. Cleared for landing on pad 4-1. Automated docking.
Federation pledges resources to Aegis. President Zachary Hudson and Shadow President Felicia Winters have united behind federal backing for the reformation of Aegis. Congress held an emergency debate after the Alliance and Empire agreed to support an official tri-superpower initiative against the Thargoids. A majority of votes from Republican, Liberal and Independent representatives approved the provision of ships, personnel and materials from the Federation. President Hudson delivered a short address to mark the occasion. The intensifying Thargoid attacks against the core systems demand a proportionate response. We recognize that Salvation was directly responsible for many of the tragic events that
Tren de aterrizaje desplegado.
Aegis was blamed for. The Federation has an opportunity to correct that misjudgment and do our part to defeat a common adversary. Congressman Tom Gillespie has volunteered to coordinate.
Confirmed contact. Ground crew dispatched. Station services are at your disposal.
The Federation's involvement with any unified anti-Xeno activities. Professor Seamus Madigan of Olympus Village University will continue to lead on xenological research. The Federal Navy has assigned Rear Admiral Daniel Parry to act as its military liaison, a reduced version of the role formerly occupied by Admiral Aidan Tanner. Professor Albert Tesreau has publicly thanked the leaders of the Alliance, Empire and Federation for their renewed faith in the ideals that Aegis represents. Kumo crew rebuffed after anti-Xeno campaign. Pilots Federation alert. A successful initiative to hold the California Nebula against Thargoid invasion has succeeded, for now at least. Systems recently invaded by Thargoid fleets were protected by a militia organized by the Kumo Council, the criminal syndicate's ruling authority in the Enclave. But an attempt to assume control of the region's ports has been surprisingly repelled by opponents of Delane. The Pegasus Sentinel reported on the situation. There can be no doubt that Archon Delane takes the security of the California Nebula seriously. Many lives were saved thanks to his decisive actions. A Kumo crew anti